Pro Angler Building a Spinner Rig, Part 2, Bead Selection. Hey Chris, can you tell us how to select the right beads for our spinner rigs?
Yeah, the basic way to pick spinner rigs and blades and beads is what type of fishing you're going to do. Are you going to fish for walleyes up shallow? You're going to fish for trout kokanee up high? So what we want to do is we want to try and imitate our bait fish. For example, if I happen to be in Escanaba, Michigan, and I'm fishing 35 feet of water, my forage fish is a goby. So what I want is a root beer color. And what I'll do for my root beer color is I'll step into like an 8mm bead. Now beads come in all shapes, sizes, forms, and whatever you can do, so you can build anything. The trick is to take the beads and lay them out in a root beer fashion. And what happens is, as you can see here, I'll have a white and an off-white. Well, basically, you want to see which looks more like a root beer. Root beer is not bright white. So you want to go into a foamy bead system. And then what you'll do is you'll turn around and build yourself a pattern, because gobies are striped, and you want to build yourself a pattern like that. Now what you got to keep in mind is, a little bit of the blade thing is, what type of blade am I using? Am I using a short blade, or am I gonna run a long pattern goby blade? Or am I going to run a baitfish goby? You know, what's my pattern? Well, my normal pattern for searching for fish would be a rounder blade, not an Indiana, but more of a standard Colorado blade, maybe something into custom paint. So the trick is, I want my blade to not to hit my hook. If my hook is hanging back here, I want to make sure I got enough beads on there. So if I go with a goby blade like this here, I want to make sure that when this thing makes a rotation, the cup of the blade does not cut my line. So what I'll do is I'll add another bead to make sure that when this blade's going around, it will not touch the knot of my hook, but it'll make plenty of action. So then basically we're just going to take and start stacking these. Dark first, because that's the back of the tail. The goby stripe. Another root beer. Another root beer barrel foam head, and we're going to drop our beads on like so. And that's what you'll see on a normal spinner rig. You'll see the goby pattern starting to develop, so it starts looking like a small bait fish. Then what you got to do is pick a clevis to go with. The trick in clevis picking is, do I want a blood red throat? Because the clevis is the throat of the minnow, so I like to throw in a blood red. To put a clevis on, let's take a look at this, folks. Because to put a clevis on, here's your clevis, and as you can see, it's got a hook on one side, open on the other, and it's going to be pulling that way in the water. My blade's going to sit across here, so I want to make sure I thread it from the back side forward, because there is a right and wrong way. If you put them on wrong, your blade will come running off and it will not track. So you put them on that way, then you'll thread that down. And then what you want to do, since you already have the rig laid out for you now, get your crawler, your goby pattern, and your clevis. Now you want to clip your blade on. And like I was saying, I want to go with a blade like this here that looks like my goby. And it just snaps on, that simple. So now, as you can see, when I built my spinner rig so far, I cannot get it, my blade cannot touch my eyelet or touch my hook or any way. It'll hit that other bead. But what the problem you're going to have is, you're going to put this bigger blade on than normal, and you're going to have a problem with it rotating. So what I do to stabilize the rotation, and this is your preference along with mine or whatever you want to do, is I'll dig in and I'll put myself ahead of the minnow, which I prefer a cheap sunglass color, because it'll reflect all the different things that go on in a little minnow's head. He's got his eyeballs, the shine of his forehead, and everything in there. So then I'll slide that down on top. And what you'll do by building a goby like that, you got your track pattern, your crawler head, your crawler, your goby body, your blood red throat that shows that the minnow's injured. You got your goby pattern on your blade, and that's what makes your sound. And then you got your goby head of your minnow, and that'll be your tractor. So when you get done, you're going to have your two hook system pulling your crawler, You're going to have your whole entire goby rig ready to go for action. And then if you need to brighten it up for the day, you can take that blade off and exchange it with whatever else if you want to go into a little bit more rainbow colored goby. I prefer the dark gobies because they work.